Hello, this video is about how to teach for understanding when you're dividing by fractions. Don't say multiply the first fraction by the reciprocal of the second one. Why not? Well, because it doesn't lead to understanding. Instead, use manipulatives, cutouts, and good old-fashioned drawing. There are two ways of dividing something, and I'm going to call these two ways sharing and grouping. So let's do 8 divided by 2 by sharing them into two piles. Pile number 1, pile number 2. This gives us 8 divided by 2 is equal to 4 because we started with 8, we knew we needed 2 piles, and we found out that you have 4 counters in each pile. But there's another way of calculating 8 by 2, and that's the grouping method. What you do is you start off with your 8 that you already know, and you take away groups of 2. So here we were able to make 4 groups of 2. So the difference is that we started off with 8 and we know exactly how big our groups are going to be. They're in size 2. And then we count how many groups we can have. And we still get 8 divided by 2 is 4. And it is this grouping method that we are going to use when we are dividing by fractions. Here is my one object, and to divide it by a half, what I need to do is I need to put it into piles, into groups. Each group has to be of size 1/2. 1 divided by a half means 1 put into groups of 1/2. In order to be able to do that, I'm going to need to cut it in half, so that's what I've done here. And now I'm going to put it into groups of 1/2 and count how many I've got. I've got 1, 2 groups of half. 1 divided by a third means cutting 1 into groups of size 1/3 and then counting how many groups you have. 1, 2, 3 groups. What about 1 divided by a quarter? Well, there are 4 groups. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 divided by a quarter equals 4. And 1 divided by a fifth equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. After a while, the children are going to notice a pattern. They're going to say things like, "Oh, you just turn it upside down," or "Oh, it's just the opposite of what I thought." That's what you're looking for, children noticing something going on. By teaching them in this way, instead of just telling them, turn the second fraction upside down and multiply it, which is what I was taught when I was at school, you slow their thinking down a little bit. You make the lesson a lot more fun because the children will feel like they've discovered something themselves. They will feel clever. They will feel sort of empowered, and they will enjoy their maths lesson. So that's why I recommend that you always teach for understanding, and fractions, dividing by fractions is a really good example of why you should do this. In my next video, I will be looking at slightly more complicated examples, such as how do you divide 1/2 by 1/6. So if you're interested, click the subscribe button and it should be out in a couple of days.